everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Rector, Secretary, Regional Secretary for Education, Science and Technology. Welcome everyone. I hope you're comfortable installed in Madeira, enjoying the views, enjoying the weather. So I'm not a specialist in digital innovation, so I'm welcoming you here and perhaps give you some questions for debate later on. So RDT is the regional agency for the development of research, technology and innovation. We have just started our incursion into trying to stimulate innovation, trying to build the bridge between research and enterprises and industry, trying to transfer knowledge into the economy, into the economical sector. We all know that digitalization is everywhere. It's a fashionable word, it's a fashionable issue, and everything is going digital. So we have digital agriculture, digital services, and all sectors of the current economy, as we know, are deep in or need digitalization as a solution. And of course, Europe is very much concerned or supporting the digitalization process. And therefore, since we are all Europeans, we have this new opportunity to embark into this digitalization. However, this is being a new field. It's not coherent. It's not. I've seen a lot of discussions online and in different forums about how to go about digitalization. So this is the issue. Do we depend on traditional companies for digitalization? Do we build a digital cooperative and we inside a legal entity? Or do we open up decentralized, autonomous digitalization organization? So I think this is pretty much still an ongoing debate, and I hope you can help us clarify some of these issues. And there is also the debate of how to go about, how to do this digitalization in a cooperative manner. So how can we, in the process of digitalization, how can we maintain work quality? How can we maintain the fair play, the workers' rights? How do we pipeline the digitalization processes, maintaining fair and inclusive and sustainable process? So this is, I think, pretty much still a debate, an ongoing debate in today's society. And we've tried to stimulate this debate internally as well. So Paulo Abreu is our digitalization guy. He will be talking to you very soon. I apologize for taking your slide, but I think it really represents a way or a path. So digitalization is not the 0 and 1, it's the continuum from 0 to 1, meaning it's that we want to do this path in a smart way. So we know that data is the new oil. There is a lot of business opportunities, but of course there are issues such as ownership and privacy, data ownership and privacy. There are standards to be respected. We have to use data effectively. So we want to make sure there is a smart transition, that we go from a pretty much analogical world to a fully digital world in a very sustainable and positive way. And internally we are working on this debate. Particularly for those of us that are not computer scientists. How many computer scientists we have in the room? Hands. So my belief is that digitalization is not something only for computer scientists. We need to be inclusive. We need to open this debate to society. We need to open this debate to a broader community, since digitalization will have impacts, broader impacts in our social realm. So that's why in RDT we are trying to stimulate this sustainable cooperative digitalization debate. We are also responsible for the Smart Islands Hub, which is a cooperative project, and Paulo will talk to you a little bit more about this, so I will not expand, and I don't want to take too much time. So yeah, it's just a consortium of regional and national entities that are together trying to build the Smart Islands Hub, which is currently registered in the national pool, in the national network of hubs, and RDT is currently heading this this initiative in Madeira. So that's all I wanted to say, and welcome you, and hope for a fruitful discussion, and hope to have some of these questions answered and debate in the current event. Thank you.
Next, we invite to the stage António Jardim Fernandes, Vice President of the Board of Madeira Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. Bom dia, Sr. Secretário da Educação, Sr. Reitor da UMA, a quem agradeço desde já a disponibilização deste magnífico espaço, Sr. Presidente da RDT, caros oradores e parceiros deste projeto, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, é com enorme prazer que também vos dou as boas-vindas nesta sessão de abertura do FIWARE Camp Madeira. Este FIWARE Camp Madeira, portanto, acontece no âmbito do projeto FiiHUB, financiado pelo Interreg MAC, um projeto que envolve entidades dos Açores, da Madeira, de Canárias e Cabo Verde, e visa a criação e execução do primeiro polo de inovação digital para o desenvolvimento da internet do futuro e para a aceleração tecnológica das PMEs da Macarronesa, isto tudo ligado à rede internacional FIWARE. Neste FIWARE Camp Madeira, que hoje se inicia, serão discutidos os desafios da transformação digital, de smart regions e de uma melhor mobilidade e logística, que são tudo temas que nos são muito caros, sendo a Madeira e todas as regiões também que participam neste projeto, regiões insulares, são, sem dúvida, o tema das smart regions e da logística e mobilidade são temas que nos são a todos muito caros. Agora, se me permitem, dando crédito à nossa arte de bem receber e para que todos os nossos parceiros e convidados nos possam acompanhar, vou dar as boas-vindas em inglês. Dear speakers, partners, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to welcome you to this opening session of FIWARE Camp Madeira. In this FIWARE Camp Madeira, the challenge of digital transformation to developing of smart regions and better mobility and logistics will be discussed. Madeira, as your regions, are insular regions, therefore all these topics are dear to us. One of the biggest challenge and opportunity that people, companies, and our society in generally today face is the digital transformation. The accelerated development of communication, IoT, and digitalization of our economy and society leads to an increasing number of people, things, events, products, services, companies, and institutions inhabiting and sharing and interacting in the cyberspace. But this experience and interaction in the cyberspace require the development of open and common languages, which allow the synchronizations of concepts, objectives, and actions, as well as the strengthening of security and trust between all actors inside these networks. This is precisely what the FIWARE project is about. A project that, through a framework of open source platform components, accelerates the development of smart and interoperable solutions, enabling the development of highly connected, business ecosystems. Only in this way, with the development of these open and interoperable technologies, will we be able to aspire to create true smart business ecosystems in the future, with self-awareness and intentionality, true, I can say true superminds. Superminds where human minds will be connected to each other in new ways and at an unprecedented scales, and people and computers together will do things that were never possible before. But I don't want to waste you more time, so I wish you an excellent work and benefit in this FIWARE Camp Madeira. Thank you very much.
Next off, we invite to the stage Silvio Moreira Fernandes, Rector of the University of Madeira.
Bom dia, good morning. Vou falar em português e peço desculpa aos outros convidados. Tratando-se de uma região da Macaronésia e sendo a Macaronésia um espaço de língua ibérica, português e espanhol, tenho que honrar necessariamente o português e o espanhol nesse espaço. Eu, na Universidade da Madeira, quero aqui agradecer a presença e o trabalho de todos para este projeto, cumprimentar o Sr. Secretário Regional de Educação e Ciência e Tecnologia, cumprimentar o Sr. Vice-Presidente da ACIF, o Sr. Presidente da RDT. Estas entidades congregaram-se à volta deste projeto, com os outros colaboradores e entidades da Macaronésia aqui presentes. Cumprimentar também os diretores regionais aqui presentes, os investigadores, os preletores, e dizer-vos que a Universidade da Madeira tem, desde há longos anos, um foco muito permanente na região em que está inserida, que é a região da Macaronésia. Temos feito sempre, há longo tempo, a política de engrandecimento, de divulgação do mar que nos une a todos e da plataforma marítima e da área de exclusividade marítima, que é esta enorme área que é constituída pela Madeira, pelos Açores e por Canárias e Cabo Verde. Não tínhamos dúvida que é uma das maiores áreas que existem do mundo e que precisam de uma identidade. E há que encontrar quem é que produz a identidade dos povos e das regiões. São as instituições e são as pessoas que fazem as instituições. E depois, agora temos um instrumento ao nosso serviço, e esse instrumento é a ciência e a tecnologia. E a digitalização é um dos instrumentos dessa política, o mais privilegiado dos instrumentos e o mais eficaz que temos hoje. Está para a nossa era, como a invenção da escrita esteve para os sumérios e para a antiguidade. Ela é a base de todo o desenvolvimento. Os seres humanos nunca mais foram os mesmos depois da invenção da escrita. Nunca mais foram os mesmos depois que houve a invenção da imprensa. Nunca mais foram os mesmos depois que houve a invenção da digitalização. Estas invenções sucessivas tornaram a informação mais barata, a ligação entre as pessoas mais fácil, a cooperação mais fácil. E é esse efeito da cooperação que vai trazer produtos, que vai trazer desenvolvimento. A região da Macaronésia tem uma dificuldade, o que decorre das outras invenções tecnológicas. Tenho que vos recordar, sabem todos isso, mas é bom recordar de vez em quando, que quando as trocas comerciais e de pessoas se faziam por via marítima, estas regiões eram mais interligadas, havia uma maior identidade entre estas regiões. Com a invenção do avião, as pessoas passaram a andar por cima destas regiões e elas ficaram esquecidas entre elas. E é este processo de digitalização, como disse bem aqui o Sr. Vice-Presidente da ACIF e o meu caro colega e amigo da RDT, este instrumento, que é um instrumento fabuloso, é que vai voltar a permitir que estejamos todos interligados, que possamos ter projetos comuns e que possamos ganhar com isso e ganhar um pouco a batalha do futuro. Se estivermos sozinhos, não ganhamos a batalha do futuro. Podem contar com a Universidade da Madeira, com esta ligação cooperativa da Universidade da Madeira com os agentes regionais, com as instituições regionais, com o Governo Regional e com os parceiros das universidades e das instituições aqui presentes, para todos lutarmos para este futuro. Só seremos felizes no sentido do bem-estar tecnológico, do bem-estar físico, se apostarmos nisso. É nisso que a Universidade também aposta e aposta nos seus colaboradores e espero que seja uma jornada com muito sucesso, com muito pensamento e com muito projeto para o futuro. Muito obrigado.
To close this opening session, we invite Jorge Carvalho to the stage, the Regional Secretary of Education, Science and Technology.
Muito bom dia a todos. Magnífico reitor, Sr. Vice-Presidente da ACIF, Sr. Presidente da Ardite, Srs. Diretores Regionais, caros convidados. É um enorme prazer que nos associamos a este momento e é um momento particularmente especial porque juntamos um conjunto de estruturas sociais e onde se procura fazer aquilo que faz todo o sentido quando nos dedicamos à produção de conhecimento, à ciência e à investigação, que é precisamente a de poder criar depois conexões com a comunidade e, neste caso particular, com as empresas, que é fundamental para o desenvolvimento não só dos contextos sociais, mas, acima de tudo, também para que possam tirar vantagens dessas mesmas competências tecnológicas, digitais, numa lógica também de competitividade e de aperfeiçoamento daquilo que são as suas áreas de negócio. Não temos muitas reservas de que, efetivamente, se há algo que veio potenciar todo este processo de investigação, todo este processo também de conexão entre os diferentes sistemas, foi precisamente a pandemia. Veio tirar a ciência e os investigadores dos seus espaços, dos seus laboratórios, dos seus centros de investigação, para criar precisamente essa linkagem com toda a estrutura social nas mais diferentes vertentes, desde a educativa à saúde, mas a empresarial também, sem dúvida alguma. E é nesse contexto que nos parece que este evento faz todo o sentido e a sua relevância, porque aquilo que é efetivamente importante é que esta capacidade, seja ela tecnológica, seja ela do ponto de vista do know-how daquilo que são os centros de investigação e dos próprios investigadores, possa estar depois disponível para que a comunidade possa também ela usufruir de todo esse contributo que é dado por aqueles que procuram encontrar as melhores e as mais diversas soluções para os contextos sociais. Capacitar uma comunidade, capacitar uma sociedade, neste caso particular, capacitar uma região, é sem dúvida alguma algo que nos deve mobilizar a todos, algo que nos deve efetivamente também levar a concentrar as nossas energias, criando dessa forma sinergias, porque, como o Sr. Magnífico Reitor referiu muito bem, quando caminhamos juntos e quando trabalhamos juntos, produzimos mais e provavelmente também, como dizia também há pouco o Presidente da Ardite, caminhamos com foco e caminhamos no caminho certo. Por isso, aquilo que desejamos é que efetivamente este seja um espaço de partilha, um espaço também de, não de chegada, mas de partida para podermos desenvolver outros projetos, mas acima de tudo projetos que procurem dar resposta aos desafios da comunidade, neste caso particular, das empresas, independentemente das suas dimensões, mas naquilo que as tornará competitivas na prestação dos serviços à comunidade que estejam onde estão envolvidas. For the people who don't speak Portuguese, welcome to this event, and I hope you take advantage of this meeting. Thank you.
We close this opening session and we move forward to presentations, starting with the presentation of the FiiHUB project and the Madeira FiiHUB FIWARE FiiHUB. It's by Dulce Pacheco from RDT.
Hello, good morning everyone, bom dia, and welcome. It's very nice to be here and to be able to be back to the on-site events and to be able to see all those faces and all those smiles that we haven't been seeing for 2 years now. So thank you so much for coming. Today I'll be talking about the FiiHUB project and also the Madeira FiiHUB FIWARE FiiHUB. So the FiiHUB project is a project that is focused on the future Internet Innovation Hub. So that will be an innovation hub that is specific, that is focused on the FIWARE technologies. So the project that is supported by the Interreg funds and also that involves partners that are from all of the Macaronesia. So as the main goals for this project will be to be a technological reference center for development of business and entrepreneurship ecosystem of Macaronesia, also to help the development of intelligent services based on the internet technologies of the future, and also to connect all these apps in the network of FIWARE FiiHUBs. So the project will be over by the end of this year, and we can say that for now, regarding the last goal, we already have the Madeira, Azores and Canarian Islands digital innovation apps in this FIWARE FiiHUBs network. So this goal is already achieved. And regarding the help that we provide to the development of intelligent services based on the internet technologies of the future. So we already have some companies that we are working on in Azores, in Madeira, in Canarias, and also in Cape Verde. So we are helping some local companies and helping them through their digital transformation. And regarding the first one, to be a technological reference center, we are working on it, and we hope that by the end of the year, we can say that we are a reference center for these technologies and for the digital transformation of businesses in Madeira, Azores, Canarias, and Cape Verde. As consortium partners, we have partners in all these 4 regions. In Madeira, we have RDT, and we also have ASIF. So RDT will be the technological partner, and ASIF, the Chamber of Commerce, will be the business partner. So in the Azores, we have also some partners, and we have some representatives of these partners here in the room. Thank you so much for coming. And from the Canarian Islands, we also have a few representatives here. Thank you so much for coming and for being here. From Cape Verde, unfortunately, we don't have anyone here in the room, but we hope to be there soon and to meet them in person there and try to develop and to promote the technologies of the future of the internet. So regarding the Madeira FiiHUB FIWARE FiiHUB, so this will be the hub that was created connected to this 3rd goal that I was talking about. So this hub is the local digital innovation app that is focused on the FIWARE technologies. And so what we meant, and before talking more about it, just to give you a brief introduction of what FIWARE is. So we'll be having soon Jason Fox that will be talking about that, and we will be able to clarify all your questions about what is FIWARE and how does it apply? But just a quick introduction, let me just say that FIWARE technologies are open source standard-driven smart solutions initiative that aims to build our digital future. Also, with this technology, we can make Internet of Things simpler and also transform big data into knowledge. So, and the FIWARE iHub, so these apps that are focused on the FIWARE technologies, they think global, act locally, as the other hubs as well. And so to try with these hubs, we try to help digital businesses to be more competitive in the current digital economy. So we try to help companies to be more efficient and try to develop their internal processes so they can be more competitive in the coming future, and also to be prepared for this future of the internet. And what we do exactly, we do technological support, training, research, testing, certification, dissemination, ecosystem building, etc. And we work with any kind of companies. So we work with public administration, incubators, small and medium enterprise and startups, large companies, research organizations, industry associations, investors, and even others that are not listed in here. Okay, so we can work with any company, and what we aim is to help the companies in their digital transformation processes, and we focus on the FIWARE technologies. So the FIWARE, MADEIRA FiiHUB FIWARE iHub is part of the Smart Islands Hub. So the Smart Islands Hub will be presented just after me by Paulo Abreu, but the MADEIRA FiiHUB FIWARE iHub is part of this EDI candidate, of this digital innovation app that is candidate to be part of the European digital innovation apps that is to be formed. We hope that by the end of this year. So the applications were submitted, and we are now waiting for the evaluation and to see if we get it, if we achieve to be one of the digital innovation apps that are in the European network. As Rui said, we already are in the national network. So as the MADEIRA FiiHUB FIWARE iHub, our goals are to encourage the formation of internet-based business at the local level, to increase competitiveness of the local businesses, and also to facilitate the diversification and internationalization of the local economy through scalable, open, reliable, smart, and disruptive open source technologies and standards. And our main domains, our main areas of focus are smart cities and smart energy, but we also have other areas that we work in. For instance, government, artificial intelligence, that we are starting to work on this, also health, and we are working with some companies within these areas and having some specific projects within these areas of focus. So just to give you a quick presentation of what we have currently, what are our current projects. So we have more than this, but just to focus two that we are using the FIWARE technologies. So we have the Call Me and the BioBexa projects. So both of them are cascade funding from Edge 2020 projects. So we have bigger Edge 2020 projects, that is I4Trust and D-World. They are Edge 2020 projects, and they open calls to support smaller projects, smaller activities with companies. So we have the I4Trust, and this project, Call Me, is a 9-month project, and we are focused on developing a collaborative micro-hub between multiple logistical operators here in Madeira. So this involves the main operators here in Madeira, and tomorrow we'll be having a presentation that will be focused on this project, and you'll be able to learn more about it tomorrow. The BioBexa project is another one that is cascade funding from D-World. And what we do is to try to develop, to work with a company. Actually, it's a company from Canarian Islands. And we are working on the development of a fully digital and centrally controlled sludge treatment plant. So we have a plant that we are working on its digital transformation and using FIWARE technologies to improve the data analytics in how they use data. And as current activities, what we have and what we'll be doing until the end of the year. So we have the FIWARE Camp Madeira that is happening now, today and tomorrow. So in the morning we have these sessions, and in the afternoon we'll be having technical workshops. So the workshops that are more focused on technical issues and that are meant for technical staff. But besides that, we'll also be doing a webinar to promote the second open call of the FIWARE Trust. So with the entity that sponsored the Call Me project, the FIWARE Trust, they have a second open call. So we'll be doing a webinar to explain more about that and to explain how companies can apply for this funding. So it's a small project, 9 months projects, but they are very well received by the companies, because usually companies' business, they want to have results quite right away. They don't want to wait 3 years to get some results. So in these small projects, they are good for that, because in 9 months we have to have it ready, to have a prototype, to have something working to answer the goals of the project. So we'll be having a webinar just to promote this second open call, so we can have more companies to apply. Tomorrow as well, David Aveiro will be talking more about this open call and to explain you a bit more about it. So, but if any of these the companies that are here, if you want to start thinking about any ideas that you would like to develop, please do, and please contact us so we can start working on that. The application is open until September. And also we'll be doing some webinars on smart cities and smart logistics, and we'll be having some FIWARE specific training that will be by the end of this year. And we do this with our core team of 5 people that are here today. And also on this team we have a certified FIWARE expert, that is Duarte, and is helping us with all these technologies and is helping companies to take advantage of this Internet of the Futures. So with that, just saying thank you, and let us know if you have any questions or if you want to apply to any of these open calls. Thank you.
Next, we have Paulo Abreu from Arditi. He brings us Smart Islands Hub.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Paulo Abreu. I'm a project manager from Arditi, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Smart Islands Hub today. We are part of the national network of digital innovation hubs and also a European candidate, and we're waiting anxiously for the results. So we're going to walk through a few topics today, and we're going to start with the mission. So we aim to promote innovation using the islands as living labs for testing and learning smart island solutions. So the point here is that we really want to test, we want to learn, we want to try things and use all these learnings to apply them locally. And we want to do this with the best available ecosystem expertise. And the expertise are our partnerships, our consortium members as well. And this, we hope, will create the confidence for our local market, for our local organizations, to move forward for the digital transformation towards sustainable development. And the highlight of the sustainable development is key for us, because in the end, this is not really about technology, it's about sustainable development. Our strategy is to promote the empowerment and digital inclusion of the Madeiran organizations and population, and encourage the adoption of advanced digital technologies by our SMEs, small mid-caps, and public sector organizations. We also want to promote cooperation with other islands and remote regions, and also small economies that face similar challenges that we do, such as small size, insularity, difficult topography and climates, brain drain, which is not a disease, it's when our smart people leave the island for bigger economies, and of course our economic dependence on a small number of products and services. But there's another aspect to our strategy that I would like to highlight, which is keeping always an eye on the framework for sustainable development. So it's not just about the money, it's also about social sustainable development and environmental as well. But also interesting stuff like humane technology as opposed to persuasive technology or addictive technology, always keeping an eye on the human factor. And there's the problem of runaway technology. We all know that technology evolves exponentially, and it's very hard for legal frameworks to catch up to this quick evolution. And so we also need to keep an eye on things like my president already mentioned about data ownership and privacy, with data being the new oil, rich people moving from owning land to owning machines to owning data. And last but not least in this point is that the point of the digital innovation hubs in Europe is to close the gaps with our competition in Asia and North America. But we also need to keep an eye on not to create gaps within our regions themselves. So everyone needs to get on board, and we intend to leave no one and no organization behind. You can see at Arditi we really love this picture. And my president mentioned a lot of stuff, but he actually didn't touch this point up here, which I wanted to focus on. So, yes, let's accelerate the digital transformation of our organizations, but let's also ask questions along the way. And we believe that if we focus on, and if we're lucky and we ask the right questions, we're closer to finding better solutions for all of us. In terms of objectives, our short-term objectives, of course, are accelerating the digital transformation of our local organizations and offering services in disruptive technologies that you may also call key enabling technologies, like AI and cybersecurity. And we want to help to build a balanced network of European digital innovation hubs covering all regions of Europe. So Europe, if you're listening, please select us for the network. Medium-term objectives: increase the competitiveness and preparedness of our local workforce, of course helping companies and public entities for the digital age. And this one is actually common to all digital innovation hubs. It's key, and it's to increase the digital maturity of organizations and the potential for innovation. Finally, we want to contribute to equal opportunities for all European citizens and transform Madeira into an intelligent and sustainable region. Again, sustainability always key. And finally, we want to be an example, and if any solution works here on our region, we want to be able to provide services to other remote and insular regions. The sectors in which we are going to apply our technology are energy, circular economy, environment and sustainability, mobility and logistics, public sector, health and biotechnology, commerce and services. Now you may see there's no tourism and there's no blue economy, which could be weird, but these areas are being, let's say, dealt with in other projects and in other actual digital innovation hubs, and we wanted to focus on sectors that we believe can help our region and diversify our economy. Now, these are the consortium members. Lead partner is Arditi. We have the University of Madeira, Startup Madeira, ACIF, the Chamber of Commerce. We have Universidade Nova de Lisboa. We have the Technological Interface Center Uninova up there. And then we have two collaborative laboratories, Secolab for Circular Economy and Smart Energy Lab for Energy. But we also partner up with a lot of other entities. And this top line here, this is actually members of a really cool network that we are part of from the very beginning, called the Islandies Network, which are islands, digital innovation hubs from islands that go from the Azores, Madeira and Canary Islands, and then cross the whole Mediterranean all the way up to Cyprus. We also partner up with industry players, academia, and public administration, and of course I have to highlight the support of the regional government of Madeira. In terms of services, we offer a lot of stuff. Let's go through this. Digital maturity assessment is the basic service that's going to flow with anyone who works with us. We're also going to do technology scouting and matchmaking, and one of my favorite parts is bringing in the creative sector to do processes like visioning and design thinking for digital transformation. We're going to help accelerate local ideas and do boot camps. We're going to do international acceleration retreats, bringing startups to work with digital transformation here on the island, business intelligence and business transformation, AI workshops, test before invest of AI solutions, and also a lot of workshops, conferences, and even maturity evaluation for cybersecurity. We're also going to do different stuff like eGov, neuro rehab, smart health, smart energy, smart green islands with FIWARE, which is what brings us here today, and Internet of Things. We're going to work with solutions for digital transformation for circular economy, working with business models specifically for circular economy and digital transformation. Microhubs and reverse logistics, intelligent public mobility, a lot of networking. I've talked about the islandies, but we're also going to be connected to the Digital Transformation Accelerator from the EU, we hope. The European Enterprise Network, Startup Europe, and of course we're going to promote technology best practices. But another area of services is help companies find investments to support their digital transformation. And finally, we also have the skills and training. So we're going to do a lot of stuff from basic digital literacy to advanced technological skills to upskilling, reskilling. We're going to do domain-specific skills, short-term, intermediate technological skills, advanced technological skills, and so on. So we're going to cover essentially the four main areas of a digital innovation hub, which are test before invest, support to find investment, ecosystem development and networking, and skills and training. And thank you. If you have any questions, feel free, drop an email.
Following Paulo Arditi, we do have José Cabello from the Canary Islands Digital Innovation Hub, and he brings us the FIWARE Global Summit.
Bom dia. Bom dia, muito obrigado. É prazer estar aqui em Madeira. Obrigado a nossos parceiros, a FIF and Arditi. And I can speak more in Portuguese because it's a little bit difficult, you know. So I'm really happy with hearing today a lot of the presentation and the work developed by Arditi. It's amazing about the smart island, the smart digital innovation hubs. I think it's one of the key points. And it's really one of the context that I want to share with you, because I'm going to speak about the FIWARE Summit. Maybe we have today an important challenge, not only me, even Jason Fox that's here today representing the FIWARE Foundation, to try to understand and to explain in a good way what FIWARE is. Because probably for many people here in this room, it's the first time you are hearing this word. Well, Dulce, she has done very well a presentation about what FiiHUB is and what is the FiiHUBs, okay? We are working with the FIWARE initiative just from 6 years ago. This is the second Interreg project we are running and we are launching. This is the FiiHUB one. And we started just 1 year ago with the first FIWARE camp. This is the third that we're doing. The first one was located in Gran Canaria, that took place in June last year. Was the first event after COVID. And the second one took place in November in Azores. This is the third one. I'm very proud to see that our initiatives are going, because we are an important mentality. We are thinking globally, but acting locally. That's our main goal with this project. It's the main goal with the FIWARE camps, and it's the main goal with the FIWARE Summit that we are going to speak. Our goal with this first FIWARE camp was it's a double challenge. On the one hand, is try to show to the local community, in this case in the Canary Island, the possibilities to work with FIWARE technologies and the possibilities to connect the FIWARE tech with the ecosystem, for example, the digital innovation hubs. It's important to show that because the opportunities that offer the FIWARE community and the ecosystem are a lot. Jason will explain later about how to run, how to connect our digital challenge with the ecosystem. But then we had another important challenge, and was how we can bring one of the international technology event to the Canary Island. It was really a challenge because normally the FIWARE Summit are one of the key dates in the calendar of the Technology Congress, just in international level. And normally they are running in very big cities like Geneva, Utrecht. The last one was in Berlin, Germany. Now to bring this big event to a small island like Gran Canaria, but this is an important challenge. So we have the opportunity to be there with people, important people and persons from the FIWARE Foundation, just Juan Joyero, this is the CTO, and Ángeles Tejado, who was just analyzing the different places, just Tenerife and Gran Canaria. And then we decided to bring, after an important analysis of the board of directors of the FIWARE Foundation, to bring the first FIWARE Summit to the Canary Island, in this case to Gran Canaria. It was just first planned to run and launch the event in January, but you know, after the 6th wave of COVID, I don't know how many waves you have, but we canceled and we will postpone the event, and will take place in September 14 and 15. What the FIWARE Summit is, it's really an important date, an important key point, where people is going there to hear about the advances in terms of technology, just in Europe, just in international level. Just on the other way, it's an opportunity to meet with developers, with technology, with very big companies. So we're speaking about an ecosystem of more than 400 entities around the world, where even last week's the FIWARE Foundation present the introduction of Amazon Web Service just in the ecosystem. So we're speaking about very big players on this ecosystem. I think it's a very important place. But this is not going only to hear about the initiative, technologies, and projects and how they are connecting with other activities. It is even a place to learn, okay? It's a place to learn, a place to analyze. Here we have a summary of the last event that took place in Berlin before COVID, that took place in 2018. It was, I think, the last one. And we will have the opportunity to run the first FIWARE Summit after COVID. We are very happy because we are very small. This is a very small project, just led by the Cabildo de La Palma. There is 3 representatives here today, and this how a small island can bring an event so important like this is to be proud, and not only Cabildo de Palma, even the whole consortium of this interesting project. And we will try to bring to Gran Canaria Island, the last initiative, the last project that we're running in a global level. This is not only for Europe, it will be in a global level, for international level. And you will have the opportunity there to learn, to have the opportunity to go to have workshops, to learn more about technologies. If you want even to certificate at FIWARE Expert, you will have the opportunity there to learn more about it, to see what are the tests, the exam, a lot of information. So we invite you to be there. It will take 2 days. It was on 14 and 15. We will have even more activities than this, because we'll be 2 days with a lot of fully activities and agenda. You will have in the following days to go to the website, where you are taking a lot of information about the days, the agenda, the slot. In this year, and this specific edition, we will speak especially in 3 main domains. One of the main domains will be the tourism. As you know, the Canary Island is an important player in terms of tourism, receiving before COVID more than 16 million visitors every year, and will be one of the specific domains because the digitalization in this sector is so important. So now after COVID, it is more important even. So because we need technology to offer security for our visitors. And then the other important domains will be the energy and the blue economy and circular economy. Will be domains that are really applied to the reality of the Macaronesian islands, the Macaronesian ecosystem, because it's important to bring those initiatives to our reality, and it's important that the SMEs, that is our heart, is the motor, you know, the force of our economy, ecosystem, can see in this type of event the possibility to grow, the possibility to have a better future, and of course to get benefits in the future. So it will take place in Gran Canaria and in FIWARE. We will have there all the venue for that. So anyway, all the information regard of the agenda will be published in the following days, because we will have on 17th June the official presentation of the summit. I hope we can do through streaming in order to provide you the information. But of course, having here our partners, ASIF and Arditi, I hope that we can bring and disseminate the information to all of you, especially the SME, the research center that can be there. So even we will have the opportunity to provide some important discount for startups and etc., in order that we can get benefits for this amazing initiative. Something that is important to mention is that it's an international congress participating around 500 persons, that's the expectation. So the big one took place in Oporto, here in Portugal, with more than 600 persons, 600 participants, running, working, meeting, networking, and in this, during these 2 days. The expectation just from the FIWARE Foundation, being the first event after the COVID, will be to have in Gran Canaria around 600 persons around all the world. So I think it's a nice event. It's not a short meeting, it's not a small, a specific meeting just located in an island. So, and here we have some figures of the last event, just that we can see here. So a call for contribution was open, just closed some weeks ago, and it was a success, receiving more than 180 contributions for people, speakers who want to be there, who want to participate and want to show the different initiatives and European projects in these areas, especially in technologies. Anyway, we will provide all the information regarding to this through our partners, our parceiros here in Madeira. And anyway, you have there the website and all the information regarding to the event that will be running the following month, okay? So thanks a lot. You are welcome to the Canary Island, of course. I hope to see you there. We will be waiting with the open hands. And thanks a lot. If you have any question later, if you want in the coffee break, we can speak more about it. Thank you very much.
Jason Fox of FIWARE Foundation brings us the keynote of the day on how to get your smart city project off the ground.
Good morning, everybody. Na fala português, so I will speak in an obscure island dialect from a small island in the middle of the North Atlantic, my own home island of Great Britain. I hope you understand English. Okay, normally I deal with the practical, with the technological side of things, but today I'm going right to the other end of FIWARE, which is where you're talking to city administrations, you're saying, right, I've heard about this smart, I've heard about what cities are all about. how on earth do we go about it? Now, as was pointed out earlier, here at Madeira we have a acknowledged FIWARE expert. Do I give them away? And one of the things which we do there is we go through an architectural scenario. And the whole point of this session here is basically an extended architectural scenario. Stay here because otherwise I won't be on there. Oh, I wander too much. Okay, you're allowed to shout at me if I wander off that way again. Just right. So it's an extended architectural scenario which builds up from a completely analog city up until the future. So let's start with the basic scenario. I'm going to talk to you today about rubbish. The fact is that most cities have got the basic scenario of trying to make the lives of the citizens better. And let's face it, when the rubbish piles up, or the traffic piles up, or the fumes pile up, these are the things people complain about. This is not glamorous, let's face it, but this is where you would want to start. You can't start with your super duper highway stuff. You start with something like waste management. So any smart solution needs context data. Context data being the, am I okay? Great, fine. Context data being the position of the now. What is the current state of the system? This is what FIWARE is all about. And if you're talking with a waste container, you're talking about things like the location, the filling level, stuff like that. And the problem we have, of course, is even here, we need to work out how are we going to get this information? How are we going to hold this information in a standardized format? And how can we model this in these entities in the real world? But you have a problem even then. If I come up with my own idea about what I'm going to do, it won't be compatible with the next project. Obviously, funding comes in a drip fashion. You need to make sure that these things are sustainable. And you need to be able to say, potentially be interoperable with, say, I don't know, in this case, someone working the Canary Islands, someone working Madeira. They need to be able to talk together. You need to maintain, this is all overhead. And of course, you want to minimize your overhead. Developers, we're fundamentally lazy. We don't like doing work. So you say, wouldn't it be better if we could just, push this off to someone else? And this is where you get onto the idea of data models. There are standard data models out there which cover a large number of scenarios which are used in smart initiatives. But the important thing here is that these are ones which are in use. These aren't theoretical ontologies. These are stuff which people are using already and you can expand on and extend. And obviously this is something which will be covered next week, tomorrow, in the data model session, so I won't steal all of Alberto's slides. But the point here is that it's done by the community, it's consensus-based, so that if I call it this, you call it it's useful, and it's all this stuff comes on from GitHub, so you can get adopted standards. Now, in this particular case, right, we're going to reuse existing data model. There's a waste container data model out there, which is very, very useful. And each container, we're going to have some IoT devices on it. IoT devices are going to have things like, I don't know, location or the battery level it's draining on or whatever. So you'll need all of these different models. You take the basic models and then extend them for the specialities which you've got. So at least there is a lot of it which is common stuff. And this is where we get onto NGSI. This is where we get onto, this is what a waste container based in Funchal, because they've actually changed the location of the GeoJSON, -1632 should be right. And the thing is that all these attributes we've got here, which are the ones in orange, are common naming for these attributes. But more importantly, if you look at the bit at the bottom where it's at context, that means that you can actually have any naming for the bits of the orange stuff you like. You could do it in Portuguese, you could even do it in Spanish if you really wanted to. But there's this at context bit at the bottom, which means that you would then translate each one of those short names to an IRI, which is this long, which is common, which means that you can even get a system, say, from the UK or whatever, could actually understand your Portuguese because we're agreeing with these IRIs. The rest of the structure here, which is something which I'll deal with a lot in this afternoon, is you've got properties and relationships. And those are the two basic fundamental parts of the NGSI interface. Either you've got a property, which is saying this is something about the current state of this object, or you have a relationship which is saying this is somehow related to some other object. An example where we've got there is that the filling level is being provided by a device. So you can tell that this is coming from there, and then you can follow the knowledge graph to wherever you want to get to. If you want to leave quickly, I would say NGSI is well-structured JSON based on REST, based on international standards. That means you can go off and get your coffee break now and you don't have to listen to me for the next 20 minutes. Device looks very, very similar. As you can see, all of these things are all the same in that they have a series of attributes, very flat hierarchy, which is just saying this is the status. You've got things like unit code and observed at, which are standard, because obviously you want to be able to know what your units are for what you're doing. And observed at is used for temporal operations. And again, it's metadata. It's where you put the metadata properties of properties. So let's obtain some context data. This here is the standard architecture graph you'll find in everything FiWARE. You've got a context broker, and you've got data coming in from your robots or your IoT or your whatever third-party systems. It flows into a context broker, which is like the glue in between the various levels. You then get some sort of processing, some sort of visualization. You do something with it, and then data flows back in again. The ones on the left and the right are things like making sure you can get it onto your cloud system or actually having security in the system. But the important point here about having a context broker is that you're not directly linking your devices to your knowledge. You've got this gap in between. And yes, it sounds initially like this is an unnecessary overhead, but this is the key to avoiding lock-in, because you can deal with any particular system, goes into a context broker using a standardized format, comes out of the context broker using a standardized format, and therefore you can move things out. So you can, in this particular case, we can trial with multiple IT devices. Maybe we've got a LoRa network here in Funchal. Maybe we've got a optical systems version in Funchal. You can try them both. They can just see, this one works, this one doesn't, right? And then trial, and then move on. So there are already plenty of existing devices which have been certified as being FiWARE ready, so you could just pick one directly, or you can actually use an IT agent to translate. But the idea behind a FiWARE ready device is purely saying, I can talk in this NGSI format. Yeah, as I said, FiWARE Marketplace is currently being refreshed with this new look and feel. Otherwise, you just take your devices. I'm going to have to get a new slide for this because we're going to run out of space with all the different protocols we can now fill with. And indeed, you can do additional devices. I'm actually looking at one based on blockchain, which will be running a webinar in a couple of weeks' time, for example. But basically, that if you can't talk directly NGSI, you can translate and talk into NGSI. So we've now got some sort of measurement within our waste trucks going around the city. We can start reading the context data. We can start using the data. We can start doing stuff in a standardized way. You could then expand this to say, air quality, noise, whatever the problem in your city is. And of course, there's always going to be a problem. Citizens aren't going to be satisfied. They say, oi, they're doing all this stuff on the north side of the city, and we're paying our taxes. We want to make sure that we get our services properly. Lock up the mayor, whatever. So what you can do quite easily is say, how can you challenge these assertions? Well, you've now got data. You've now got data. You want to be able to display it and offer it to others so that they can make draw appropriate conclusions. So let's provide a mashup to display the location of the trucks. Or let's provide links to CCT cameras which are showing where they are. So you should say, yeah, I'm not lying, I'm a really good city mayor. What you can do is you can see that there are already either open source or commercial systems which will do mashups. There's within the FiWARE catalogue, you've got things like WireCloud, which I think, have I got WireCloud? No, the top one there I think is Hopu, which is a Grafana set, and the second one is a GeoJSON system. But there are many visualization tools. And obviously, because we're outputting this data in a standard format, or in the case of the bottom right-hand, we're doing in GeoJSON, which is obviously another standard, you can just get stuff directly on the screen, no problem. And of course, you know, I've been doing lots of webinars and this sort of thing, so we solve the first problem. But you could also, say, use your cameras as devices. And again, there are elements like Currento, which is part of the FiWARE catalogue, which is able to output events in towards a context broker, saying, "Hey, you know, I've just taken this registration plate for a well-known device. Okay, we now know the truck is here." Well, you can use it as a location point. So there's other things which you can add in as you keep on expanding the system once you've got this flow of data into a context broker. So we've now displayed it, we want now to start using it. Let's get some value. So you know, waste trucks obviously require maintenance. How often are you going to service it? You're going to take these out of action every 3 weeks and give someone a lot of work for no good reason? Can we leave it for another while? But yeah, you can consider that you've got data about the system. You can use that. You should start using this data to start gaining insights. You need to be able to understand what's going on. I mean, for example, you know, maybe you'll find the brakes, you can work out that the brakes are going to be failing because they're now having to brake harder than they used to, because you can see the acceleration, you can see the movement. You've got a historical trend within the data in question. What you can do here is you can also notify changes. So obviously, say something moving out of an area, or when a specific circumstance is based on the... I haven't got a Q parameter on that one. This is just 5%. Yeah, this is notifying all changes at the moment, but you can actually limit it to a certain number of changes. You can do it just on a periodic basis. Because the context data is changing, there needs to be some sort of asynchronous mechanism, some sort of way of saying, okay, now that my context data has changed, inform this specialized service over there. Maybe it's data persistence, maybe it's going into the artificial intelligence domain. I really don't care. But again, the output from a notification is in a standardized format. Therefore, you can get someone writing that particular area of software. Obviously, you don't need to necessarily do it literally all the time. You can throttle this, but if you've got an asynchronous mechanism, it means you are reducing traffic within the system. So you don't need to poll all the time. Go off and do what's necessary. So this one is just saying, okay, give me the results of my filling level. I can then potentially display it on a graph or whatever. You can obviously split up the problem of predictive maintenance into multiple steps. The whole idea about having a context broker and everything means that you end up with a very modular microservice-based system, which means that you can change one area or bring in or build or buy a model to do the particular problem. So in this particular case, we're going to use Draco, Cygnus, Quantum Leap. These are parts of the FiWARE catalog, free open source software to push stuff into a database. Big data analysis, we could use Cosmos push into, say, Apache Flink or Spark, all this open source stuff. Or you could put it into your own, someone else's system. So subscription is part of these Lego bricks, putting stuff together to be able to work out what's going on. Simulating data. Right, so we've got our trucks going through the city. Are they half empty when they're coming back? Are they all crowding in one part of the city and causing problems? Do we want to have alternative routes? Maybe we've got enough, we need to get more infrastructure. It would be very, very silly to buy a load more trucks just because you think we might need some more trucks. It would be much better to be able to simulate these scenarios. You've got sufficient data and you know what the real life points are, that you should be able to start saying, okay, well, if I added in a truck here, it would do the following. It's going to fill up at approximately the same rate as it would do in that part of the city, because we know the density of the housing in that area. Therefore, we know that if we move the route here, you can start using the concept of digital twins. We can start running lots of scenarios in different ways of doing this. Indeed, I know someone who's been dealing with predictive parking, and they have a lot of AI models based on their FIWARE system. As soon as you've got the subscription notification coming out, you're out of context world, you're into other domains. You're into, in this case, I'm walking again, aren't I? You're into, say, machine learning, artificial intelligence. You can start doing clever stuff as you would do, because you're now dealing with the data. And you don't have to deal with a live world when you're dealing with the data. But look, because we're using these data models, which should come out beforehand, we know what the structure of the input data will be in, and we're using a standard API for getting the context data. So it's much easier to develop your machine learning systems if you are talking to a standard interface. You can see here typical examples of how of attributes which you would have in a system, a city system. You can see how you would have the real life thing, and what happens is that you get the flow between those three layers which I was showing you earlier, where you've got the digital twin representation, the context data in the middle, and you can do stuff with it. Well, you can do that either in the real world, you can do it in the virtual world. And that was the one I was talking about, machine learning, moving a bit earlier. This is how it would work. As you can see, you move from on-premise, the FiWARE stuff, which is on the far right. You'd end up going through into a system which would expand as necessary to do the actual work. If those of you who've been paying attention, there's usually a link at the bottom to various FiWARE videos we've got. We've got probably literally 100 hours of worthwhile content in the area that you might be of interest. Let's augment our context data. Believe that the large, slow-moving vehicles are causing additional traffic. Makes sense, traffic build-up, people don't like that. But maybe it's just because it's raining and people are slower at throwing the rubbish into the bins. We don't know. There are multiple sources you could have about the same location. You could get the waste context data, you get traffic load data, weather forecast, and you know it's raining at a certain location. All of this is fundamentally about the same place, about the same thing, about the same ID. So what you can do then is you register an external context source, like your local weather forecaster, which means that you have data I know and data I know I can get from other sources. And overall, we have a holistic viewpoint of what the system is. The more information you've got within the system, the more intelligent the decisions your system can make. So you can see there are multiple ways you can do the registration. There are you can use registrations when you're doing actuations on devices, so that I can force something to happen. But you can also do this where we can federate data, so I can have data from one context broker effectively being in here, or indeed talking about I believe someone's talking about I4 Trust later on. You get data sharing scenarios where I have data, you have data, we have common friends, and I want to allow you to have some access to my stuff. So registrations are used to make sure that we break down the silos. It's not just my data anymore, it's data which is potentially for common use. Let's move on to context data feeding back loops. Smart system. A smart system will only be smart if you can get a feedback loop. You need to be able to do something to the system. So far, I've just read in where the data in my trucks is, but hey, look, what I'm going to do now is, because I know it's going to be slow downtown because, in 10 minutes because my trucks are going to do that, I'm going to change the patterns of the traffic lights. That way, I can alleviate what's going to be a problem in the middle of town before it happens. There's a feedback loop here saying, yeah, we know we're behind, we can do something else thereafter. There are a lot of devices which are read-only. In fact, this is probably the major issue in smart systems, is that there's lots of sensors, not many actuators. But there are actuators which you can do either, in this case, it's a device, but you can also do actuators by nudging people or informing people, saying, now is a good time to get an electric vehicle into the middle of town because there's high air pollution, just by putting it on their mobile phone or what have you. So you use a smart system to get this feedback loop where you affect the real world and you also read back from the real world what's happening to work out what the next decision is so you can affect the real world and go around in circles. And this is how we get hold of measurements from IoT sensors. Those of you who on the technological side, this is a simple REST GET request. You can't get more simple than this. This is the FIWARE guarantee, basically, was saying, oi, if I want to get devices, I can get it with a simple request. If I want to actuate a device, I will do it with a simple post request. So this means that developers pick up the idea here because we're not reinventing the wheel. We're based on proper standards here. So I don't care really whether it's going to the LoRa network or it's going to Sigfox network or it's going through HTTP or what have you. That's lower down the system. There's this abstraction between the various different layers, so I can push stuff to the sensors or retrieve stuff from the actuators. This is a patch request because we're modifying part of the device and changing the traffic light status to green. And you can see there's a flow of the data. But as far as you're concerned, I make one request, it happens. So I don't care about low-level IoT from the FiWARE viewpoint. We can move on to problems of complex event processing. Because now we've got, and again, this is all stuff which is available in the FiWARE catalogue. You can make a decision based on what the status of the system was over, say, a window of movement. So, were they within that, was the truck within that area in the last 10 minutes? Is it moving slowly? And. At some point, what will happen is, on top of the subscription you create, which is fairly basic, you can add in more complex rules so that the filters work properly, so that you can eventually get, if necessary, just even get into a custom microservice to, say, go off and do something. So you identify what's going on. Breaking data silos. Not necessarily the case for an island, but most places you can drive away from it, and you can drive next door, and as soon as you drive next door, they have probably got a completely different city administration, and they've probably got a completely different system. And if you're talking about breaking data silos, you need to have a neutral way of being able to push your data from A to B. And this is where NGSI LD, linked data, really comes to the fore. Because the linked data element, like JSON LD is the underlying basis, means that I'm able to tell from a machine to a machine, this is what this data is all about. So even if I'm using a completely different system, if I can pass this data which has got this app context, which I'll be dealing with this afternoon, so I won't do all the complex stuff at the moment, you need to be able to talk between the separate systems. This is how it looks. As I said, it's just got this at context, at ID for JSON LD. Classic example is getting products on the web. You can go to a website, it'll show you how their star rating, their price, because they've marked up their data saying this has got this price according to this standard based on the at context. And it means that you're able to pass data on to somebody else who doesn't necessarily know who you are, because they know what the what's underlying the system. For NGSI LD, there's not that much difference between NGSI LD and JSON LD, because NGSI LD documents are JSON LD documents. You can see the only difference is that we now have a certain amount of structure here where every relationship has got an object, every property has got a value. This means that, indeed, there are simplified formats of NGSO-ALD, which I'll be covering later on as well, but this means that the data is structured, the data can be extracted. And what happens, as I said, is you get the, say, an address element is actually the same as a schema address.org address element. As a human, you can type that on a website, you'll get all the data, but as a computer, you can work out what the attributes are because they've got additional stuff in the at graph and they've got additional stuff in the at context. So you can basically, if you have this at context thingy, you can use JSON as if it was just your own local JSON. Extending access to data. Okay, so next initiative, we're going to have a little mobile app saying, I want to put information in saying, clean up my street, there's graffiti here. You know, going to be really nice to our citizens, divert the nearest clean-up team. Problem is that we want to avoid people pranking us and just doing it anyway. You need to have, open the data, but it's open but verify. You need to have some sort of security around the system. And the point here is that if we go into FiWARE, you'll see the context broker itself doesn't deal with security. There are other elements, and we are actually agnostic to which security system you go for. There are other elements which would do identity management or policy enforcement, which would then allow you to permit or deny various things. Obviously, what you want to do in a system like this could be different to what you want to do if you're trying to get two robots to connect together, which would be different to what you'd want to do if you want to get two data spaces to connect together. But the point here is that because context brokers don't deal with security themselves, they are able to come up with other elements. Again, this is elements from the FiWARE catalog I'm picking here. It doesn't have to be. You can use your own elements as well, which would be able to do the necessary security following security standards like OAuth 2 or IDSA or whatever. So as I said, we are security agnostic. I always leave that line at the bottom. Pick your own security needs. I'm not going to say use this security framework. You need to work out what your security needs are before you go off and do anything else. But this is just a selection of some of the security enablers from the current security enablers from the FiWARE catalog. Whenever I say FiWARE catalog, I mean free open source software, which you can build on. Opening to the future. Right, so what's happening next? I don't know what's happening next. Really, you need to keep your system open so that whatever potentially could happen can fit into your system. In this case, I'm going to have a street cleaning robot. We're going to make all the street cleaners in the city redundant, replace them with robots. Fine. How can you connect that to the system? Well, again, you've got context data in the robot. You know where the robot is. You know what the robot's going to do. There's context in all sorts of domains. Context in domains from energy to tourism. You've got this common data exchange. You can then reuse it. You can reuse this concept into the final system. So, particularly with robots, there are FiWARE components around robots. But the whole point about going through this interface is that you're not restricting yourself. You've got this potential to innovate in whichever direction you want. So you can pick whichever things you want from here. You can choose other things and deal with those as necessary. So how to achieve this in reality? This is the big question. Well, start from the bottom. We have a global summit. We have people from all over the world who will be discussing what they're doing with FiWARE. You can network with the real people to find out what's going on. Working my way up. You've got your local FiiHUB. You've got your local expertise who understand this, who are able to explain what you need to do. Talk to me. I'm here on the island for the next week. I'm going to be on his island for at least 2 weeks in September. I'm probably visiting my own island as well at some point. So let's see how it goes. But also, there are companies who are doing this commercially. At some point, the people are going to be selling commercial products in the FiWARE marketplace. Whether it's just the devices, bottom end, or maybe they're giving the entire city solution, or maybe they're giving consultancy. They're using this common interface, which means that potentially you can put elements from multiple companies together to give you a complete solution. We've got plenty of information, FIWARE Foundation, if you want to find, cities which are already doing this, or if you're into smart agriculture or whatever, we've got information about it. And basically, that's FIWARE. That's how you do your smart city solution. So thank you very much for listening to me this morning. I'll be here this afternoon and tomorrow.
The discussion is now open. Please raise your hand for questions and identify to whom is your question for. We have time.
What usually happens is when I do one of these presentations, we go for coffee and then someone grabs me and says, I've got this question for you. Because they're too shy to ask it in the middle of the audience. If we want to go for coffee, that's fine. I'm here all week.
How do you guarantee trust in your data?
Can you come up? Come up. At least come near.
Is this working? How do you guarantee trust in your data from multiple providers?
You have security components whose sole job is to deal with the security of the system. So, for example, if you take the example of I4 Trust, which was on one of the MADEIRA slides earlier, in that particular case you have KeyRock, which is an identity manager, which has got the list of people who can do stuff. But it's got in that particular case, it's got distributed trust. There are other elements in the iShare system which would say, yeah, I know her, she knows him, he knows them, and therefore you can trust the guy at the far end of the train. So what you do is you split the data, the interface, which is the main bit for FIWARE, as I would call it, the NGSI interface, from the security concerns, which was that poll on the right-hand side, which was saying, okay, I need a security framework, I need the appropriate security framework for this particular system, based on whether I want to. I mean, obviously, if you're doing data sharing, it's completely different to if you're, say, talking between on a closed industrial pipeline. So you add in security components to deal with that, usually through the headers of a request, just to say, yeah, if I've not got the appropriate rights in here, go off and do something else. But the important thing for FIWARE is that as far as FIWARE is concerned, in 98% of cases, there are a few things which are coming up, I'll explain in a second, it's orthogonal, security is security. Now, what's actually coming in, which is where there might need to be some more security directly in context brokers, is when you're talking about data sharing on, say, types, whether you'd need to make a request to find out this particular entity, is it of that type? In which case you might need to have some security held within the context broker itself. Of the three main context brokers I know about, the one which has probably got the most security built into it directly is Stelio, because again they had a business need to do that. Not to say that the other context brokers aren't secure, it's just they are secured by external components rather than being dealt with internally within the context broker.
Thank you.
I will be running a security session, I think, tomorrow afternoon. So you can ask me lots of horrible questions then.
Yes, I have a lot more questions, but I'll save them for the workshops.
Any other easier questions?
Thank you very much. A bit too fast for me, so your presentation was like...
I was given
I have to have your presentation to study later.
Yeah.
To study later, yeah.
What I do with the FIWARE webinars is I subtitle myself.
Yeah.
And then you can put it on slow speed.
Yeah.
My problem is that my English is rather fast. I'm a native speaker.
No, but it was super nice.
Sorry.
My question is because regarding best practice in your experience. Because I think that a system like this works with two essential stakeholders. One are citizens and people, and second are politicians. How do you have some examples or some suggestion how to involve these two part of the two pieces of the puzzle that are, for me, I don't know, but is essential?
Well, this particular example was smart cities, right? There are a lot of installations, FIWARE installations on smart cities. I think over 300 cities worldwide. What I would suggest in that case is the best way forward is to talk to a city which has already got an installation. There are some cities I know of who have flagship installations who are, say, based mainly on open source components. I think, I'm not sure the full details, but I think Vienna is one of them, for example, where I don't do the job end to end myself. That sort of end of FIWARE is further away from my expertise. So in that particular case, I would say the best thing to do is to say, contact Angelis Tolado, who coordinates the Smart Cities stuff. She will put you in contact with someone in the know, because this is getting so far away from my day-to-day work that I wouldn't answer that directly. But I know someone who can, which is the whole point of this. The whole point of this is that we're building a community. Yeah. It's not just what I know, it's what he knows, it's what she knows, what he knows, whatever, you know.
Yeah, because the capabilities for me are enormous, but I think we miss the people. So we have to explain a simple way to explain how this can be useful to people. Because sometimes, as we spoke about data, people are afraid to share data, so they don't know.
There is reluctance, yes, I agree. Why, I mean, even something like working out whether your olives are healthy or not. This is on agriculture. You know, olives don't have feelings. But the problem was, you know, well, if I say that my field is not doing very well, that's giving commercial advantage to my neighbour. You can anonymise these things. You can, if you have multiple, in a data sharing scenario, if you have multiple context brokers, you can decide which bits of data, based on your security system, are the ones which you're allowed to push over. But even better, you can have a proxy in between. So it might not be, you know, specifically your data. You could mangle it slightly. You could say, you know, someone's olives in the nearby are not feeling very well, or whatever it is. So yeah, there are security concerns within the data models. There are, I believe, I think it's what is the EU recommendation on security. You can mark data as being sensitive or personal. Within the NGSI implementation, that's just metadata. And potentially you could use that to sort of strip stuff out or potentially anonymize stuff if you had that as a proxy. So there are concerns around this area. I totally agree with you. But there are ways you could get around it. And obviously, that would be additional to the self, because actually within the context data, you want the status of the now. Yeah. So you don't want to have all the thing. But if you start sharing the data, that's when you need to be a little bit more ethical and think about things.
Thank you for your very interesting presentation. I just wonder, not being informed about these issues, what are the advantages? Obviously there are some, but what are the challenges regarding competitive commercial solutions? How do you deal in the market about as an alternative solution, or you're not? The community is not attempting to present itself as an alternative solution.
We are not purely free software. You know, the Platinum members are companies like Telefonica. Telefonica does not exist to give out free software. What the FIWARE Foundation is doing as an open standard, we are the guardians of this interface. We want to make sure that everybody has got a potential to get a slice of the pie. If you're a small specialist who does predictive algorithms on traffic data, then we want to be able to, so that your module can get into, you know, the monolithic Telefonica system, who are charging the large amount because they've got a big system. The idea is not to give you lock-in, it's to give you the opportunities across multiple companies. So this comes down to the big companies, like engineering or Telefonica, realizing that it's in their interests to foster co-opetition, in that, you know, maybe Telefonica works better in Spanish-speaking markets. Maybe engineering is better in Italy, because that's where they're based. Maybe they've got one of them's got more interest in robotics, one's got more interest in smart cities. So you end up being able to sell a commercial product. And there are obviously commercial products in FiWARE. Someone's going to pay my wages.
I wonder about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's paying for all this?
But the whole point is that they must sell it on some sort of specialism behind their system. You know, we're quick, we're cheap, we're fast, we're whatever. Now, the USP of FiWARE compared to vendor-specific systems, I won't mention any names because I don't mention any competitors, is purely because we have this open standard. Obviously, they can also use open source software in their system, but they can't state that, okay, you buy my system, we'll probably let you modify it and tinker it. I mean, you can change the code in FiWARE if you wanted to. You can raise a PR request on the code, or fork the context broker, or fork the element you're using to change it for the way you want to use it. And that's where we have this USP. That's where we should be trying to push, saying, you know, build your city on a FiWARE-based system. As you can see, I've not been saying, you know, just buy NEC products. I've been saying any product which has got using this interface is potentially of use, which obviously puts a lot of power back to the city administration, because then they can say, right, well, will you be interoperable with this system we just bought from the Italians? And if they say no, you can say, well, thank you very much, go away.
So customization is an aspect.
I think customization is a key, because obviously, even in cities, every city is different. Agriculture is a good example where literally every location is different because of the climate. But the challenges from a city like Funchal will be different to one like, I don't know, Lisbon, purely on size, purely on location, purely on economy, on all sorts of reasons. So you might want to have innovation in different areas based on what your local conditions are.
Thank you.
Okay, let us now take a 20-minute break. Please note that for the coffee break is outside on your left side, or just follow the others. Thank you. So I do believe that we are ready to go towards the second.
We are now ready to go into the second session of the FiWARE Camp Madeira. We will be introducing the roundtable. It's roundtable of the Smart Regions Challenges with Andrea Rosa Collard, Regional Directorate of Informatics, César Rosa, Municipality of Funchal, Tomás Ferreira from the Açores DIH, José Cabelo, Canary Islands Digital Innovation Hub. The moderator will be Professor David Aveiro, Senior Research of RDT. So, Professor David Aveiro is welcoming and introducing the roundtable.
Andrea Rosa Collard, ela é atualmente diretora regional de informática, integra a Secretaria Regional das Finanças do Governo Regional da Madeira.
As said before, Professor Duarte Aveiro is introducing Andrea Rosa Collard. I'll remind everyone, she is the Regional Directorate of Informatics at the region of Madeira.
Especializada em Direito Internacional e Propriedade Intelectual, bem como a liderança e gestão comercial intelectual e em International Trade Arms Regulation e Export Administration Regulations. Tem também a certificação CIP é pela International Association of Privacy Professionals, foi eleita a Most Innovative na GC Powerlist Legal 500 na área das tecnologias de informação e comunicação por 2 anos consecutivos. A sua carreira esteve desde sempre conectada.
So right now, Professor David Aveiro continues to detail Andrea Rosa Collard's CV and experience.
É uma ávida apoiante do desenvolvimento tecnológico em nível nacional e regional, participando em várias iniciativas de inclusão e igualdade, como hashtag Somos Todos Tecnologia. Temos também a honra de ter aqui a presença do Dr. César Rosa, da Câmara Municipal de Funchal. Nasceu no Funchal em 1964, licenciou-se em 1998 em
Again, Professor David Aveiro will introduce in more detail César Rosa. He works for the municipality of Funchal. He is a student of the Regional Autonomous of Madeira.
Em 1959 regressa a Funchal e após uma breve passagem pela empresa Serfor, transita para a empresa FiWARE, onde assume a responsabilidade pelo departamento de software, e entre 2002 e 2015 exerceu funções como especialista de informática na Câmara Municipal de Funchal. Em fevereiro de 2015
He currently works as an IT expert at the municipality of Funchal.
Direção do Departamento de Recursos Humanos e Modernização Administrativa, cargo que ocupa até hoje. Temos também a ter aqui o Tomás Ferreira, que é natural de Ponta Delgada.
So next to him we have Tomás Ferreira. He is from the Açores archipelago.
Em 2014, dessa mesma instituição, presta provas de mestrado em Ciências Económicas e Empresariais, com especialização na área das finanças. Em 2011, iniciou a profissional na empresa MADEIRA.
Has a bachelor and a master's degree in financial and economics. Also a financial expert, having some experience in the Açores Bank.
Nesta instituição, começa a trabalhar na área de promoção e comunicação, destacando-se neste domínio a criação e lançamento de marca Açores. Ainda na SDA,
He is also responsible for the regional brand Açores.
Em maio de 2018, é convidado a ingressar o nono no qual representa aqui hoje esta entidade, do Parque de Ciência e Tecnologia de São Miguel, na área da inovação empresarial, sendo aqui que desenvolve a sua atividade.
He was later invited to be a part of the informatics market of Açores.
Finalmente, temos José Manuel Cabello, nosso amigo e parceiro aqui destes projetos.
Next to him we have José Cabello, not originally from Portugal. He is from the Canary Islands, from the Digital Innovation Hub.
Startups na internacionalização, tanto e também, portanto, apoio, fornece serviços para entidades da administração pública. Ele é responsável por atividades comerciais e de negócios e desenvolvimento através de projetos de cooperação internacional e ações culturais.
He is currently in charge in the Canary Islands of business administration, also in the financial sector. He oversees various projects, mainly in the financial field, also that has to do with the IT.
Desenvolve planos de estratégia e inovação de pesquisa e desenvolvimento para iniciativas regionais e setoriais, apontando para colaboração com negócios, internacionalização e promoção.
International business is a very big part of his daily routine. Various startups, various cooperations, including dealing with various universities across the regional.
Feita esta apresentação aqui dos nossos oradores aqui na mesa redonda, vou agora convidá-los a fazer uma breve introdução para apresentarem a sua visão dos desafios que as regiões enfrentam para se tornarem inteligentes. Então, eu começaria por convidar aqui a doutora Andréia Goulart para a sua intervenção. Muito obrigado.
Switch it off. So currently speaking would be Andrea Rosa Collard, which she thanks and indicates how important it is to have these initiations, information at the Madeira Island Hub. Not just us in Madeira, but a European importance of the technology, especially in the post-pandemic. So during the pandemic, all technologies had a break, namely between 5 and 10%, and now we are noticing a higher increase, around 10% of all technologies.
E então, essa correlação inversa, pela primeira vez, entre, portanto, o PIB e o mercado de tecnologias de informação, deu-nos a compreender quase, portanto, o valor das tecnologias de informação, deste mundo de digitalização, o que é que nos pode fazer.
So due to this break and now the recovery of all the software technology and informatics, we have now realized how important it is, especially for the region, to invest and realize that this is an opportunity for investment.
E isto leva-me aqui à transição digital.
So, various opportunities, and this leads us to a transactional period.
Os algoritmos podem ser um bocadinho demasiado complicados, mas eu normalmente faço um esquema muito simples para conseguir, portanto, passar a informação toda. E como, portanto, aqui na Madeira, o que é que nós temos?
I will try to be as simple as I can, try and pass all the information that possible.
Muitíssimo importante. Uma das coisas mais importantes, mais valiosas que vão ver hoje em dia são os dados. Mas nós temos
So one of the most valuable assets that we have is data, and the data we will have to, or it is extremely important how we treat this data, how we store it, and how we keep it safe. So every information, all new technologies is extremely important for us, not just for the island itself, but all infrastructures. Hardware, software, all these tools are important for all the infrastructures. That's included in 5G. Why? Because we use it every day, especially through our phones. So this is very basic for our day-to-day activities.
Muito importante são os recursos, são as nossas pessoas, são o conhecimento e a informação que nós temos que dar às nossas pessoas.
Transaction would be people, human resources.
Um fracasso que está a nível mundial é que nós não temos recursos suficientes, que é a segurança.
This is extremely important, and unfortunately, we don't have enough qualified people in order to use or create new technology here in Madeira. There needs to be more investment in Madeira, especially in our human resources.
Temos esta internacionalização muitíssimo importante. Nós temos os recursos suficientes para podermos utilizar as infraestruturas e os equipamentos. Quarto, interoperabilidade. Nós já tínhamos falado aqui de interoperabilidade, a importância de interoperabilidade e conectividade. Portanto, se nós estivermos a partilhar, se nós necessitamos de partilhar dados, que é uma necessidade, não há volta a dar.
So, in our fourth transition, we have efficiency. We need to be smarter, intelligent how we transfer data. This transfer of information is very important because it doesn't matter where we are. We need to transfer or share information between islands, between infrastructures. It is a way of communication.
Quinto, e não último, é se nós estamos a tratar de dados, se nós temos de estar acesso a dados, uma das coisas mais importantes que nós
the fifth
hoje em dia é a cibersegurança e a proteção.
transition is the protection of data. We need to share data, but we need to do it in a smart and efficient way. All data needs to be protected. Needless to say that this is very or extremely important to everyone, as people's personal information needs to be kept safe.
A tratar de dados, portanto, numa região já muito turismo, nós temos que ter atenção também a esse nível de tratamento de dados quando não são.
Since Madeira deals with a lot of data, not only from the people that live here, but tourism, we need to be extremely careful that we have, or that we meet our own legislation. But not only our legislation, we need to keep in mind that foreign legislations are extremely important, and we need to meet that legislation.
Sejam os direitos humanos, direitos de proteção de dados.
So the protection of data leads to the protection of human lives. We can't afford. We need to protect more. Protect the data as much as we can. The protection of data is extremely important for all infrastructures. If this data is corrupted, we will not be able to protect those infrastructures, such as businesses, universities.
Convidado então agora
So, being called right now is César Rosa. He works for the municipality of Funchal. Thank you to all, and thank you for the invite. Andrea has spoken about the infrastructure, and the municipality of Funchal is also worried about its infrastructures and working on technology and a city of the future. So if we want a city for the future, we need to work on our infrastructure. So we have around 6.1 kilometers of optic fiber. We plan to not just double it, but triple it in the near future.
Temos já este projeto, isto tem a ver com a mobilidade, se calhar amanhã será abordado. Isto é um projeto que já está implementado quase na sua totalidade.
This project is being implemented and is almost finished.
O número de viaturas, o tipo de viaturas que passam internados nos locais da cidade. e reforçamos também, neste caso, a segurança nos túneis da Cota 40, que inclui também são alguns dos locais onde estão implementados. Este projeto foi todo...
So our infrastructure is also within the tunnels. We are under construction. Optic fiber is being passed through the tunnels. Installation inside the tunnels with own resources from Funchal City Hall, electric section. So our next project will be the CCTV project of Funchal City.
Outras métricas de análise, poderemos utilizá-las não só para a videovigilância, para a segurança dos cidadãos, mas para outro tipo de análise.
Obviously, the CCTV is not only going to be used for security purposes, not just also for keeping people safe, but these images can be used for other purposes.
Também já temos uma infraestrutura de LoRaWAN instalada na cidade de Funchal.
Also, within our infrastructures, we have LoRaWAN.
Temos cerca de gateways devidamente colocados num projeto que já foi, que já arrancou e já está em funcionamento. Neste caso,
so this technology has been already implemented in various points of the city.
Neste momento ainda está para consumo interno, não está disponível.
It is not yet available for the users of the city, only internal use. So it will be available to everyone once the infrastructure is up and running for everyone.
E sendo a infraestrutura base de uma cidade, depois podemos ter projetos que já temos, alguns também de ambiente, neste caso dos caixotes de lixo, a capacidade em termos de temperatura, ruído, todo tipo de sensores que possamos colocar. Temos já a infraestrutura base para depois podermos dar.
Sensors for noise, waste is already implemented within the city.
E fazer aqui uma normalização de dados é uma coisa bastante difícil, ou seja, somos uma Câmara que tem uma estação de biologia, somos uma Câmara que tem teatros, tem mercados municipais.
So, the municipality of Funchal is somewhat complicated to keep track of all data since we have a lot of infrastructure.
Normalizada, tendo em conta as áreas.
We will slowly implement and use our infrastructures to keep track of all data and to protect it as much as we can.
Ou seja, tentamos fazer uma normalização, já desenvolvemos esta plataforma, neste momento conseguimos ter uma visão 360 dos nossos cidadãos.
The infrastructure is already implemented that allows us to keep or to have a view of 360 degrees over our city and our citizens.
Outra solução que temos desenvolvido é os nossos serviços online, ou seja,
another service that we have available is our online platform, where the Funchal citizens can report anything from waters of Funchal, schedule consulting of waste collection. Funchal Alerta is in any new occurrences that may happen. School manuals, going back to Funchal Alerta, this has been successfully implemented for a long time, as people anywhere that have access to this platform can inform the City Hall or the municipality of Funchal with anything that happens in the public. By having this platform and Funchal Alerta, it made it easier for us to answer our citizens as quickly and effectively as possible.
Uma visão centralizada. Isso só é possível tendo em conta ser recursos internos. Nós estamos a utilizar recursos internos, estamos a normalizar os dados de forma a que possamos dar uma visão aqui integrada dessa informação. Os desafios são grandes.
Challenges are extremely big. So we have Sigma, the control center, that this was concluded in December 2022.
Para este centro que irá tratar toda a informação que nós temos na cidade e estará disponível.
This center will treat all data relating to the city.
Neste momento nós temos os meus colegas do ambiente têm alguma informação que faz parte da área deles, os meus colegas do trânsito também, e neste momento o que vamos fazer, e já estamos a trabalhar nisso já há algum tempo, não é o facto do espaço físico ainda não está pronto, mas estamos a tentar congregar estes dados todos no único local.
So the purpose of this center was to aggregate all information from traffic, from weather, from any occurrences within the city, and have all our internal resources normalize all the data so that we can offer an answer in real time.
Nós já temos aqui algumas informações de várias verticais, como eu costumo dizer, e o nosso grande trabalho agora o desafio será confluir isto tudo numa única plataforma, para que possamos ter.
Our challenge remains that putting all this information into one platform so we can centralize. It will not be easy, but we are working very arduously in trying to join all this information in one platform. So right now in this platform we already have joined information from CCTV, specific platforms, also from sensors around the island, which have already been implemented, and we have mentioned that point previously. We have allocated a lot of human resources to this platform. The city has also implemented GPS in all transportation. Namely the environmental department and the renting. Hopefully in the future this will be a normal procedure, and all this information will go directly to our center hub, where all the information will be kept and dealt with, and anything that needs to be answered, we will use that information. So in just 2 years, non-face-to-face communication has increased from 35% to 74% of all interactions of citizens within the municipality. This has greatly improved our human resources, because we have now have more free resources for other issues within the city. This platform, Funchal Alerta, was the main issue that we had. So a lot more people have stopped visiting physically our infrastructure, and can use the platform online that we have already in place and successfully implemented. Cesar Rosa thanks everyone and will be available for questions afterwards. Thank you. And Professor Aveiro thanks and invites the next orator. Tomás Ferreira from Açores, the IH. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to everyone and for the invite for the Information Digital Hub. Thanks to the organization and all work that is being performed. So it's easier to speak after the coffee break as everyone is already happy and full.
E de como é que, através da sua ação, se pretende dar o salto e ultrapassar alguns dos desafios.
So I will introduce the Digital Innovation Hub and detail advantages of this platform and how we can transform this into opportunities. So we will talk about, hypothetically, of a regional 100% intelligent. Obviously, for now, it is only a hypothetical. So right now, the image that is being shown is of São Jorge, the island. This island was affected by various earthquakes, as Açores is subject to.
Portanto, muito sucinto, porque o Paulo já falou muito bem e já descreveu muito bem o que é que os DIHs faziam, mas, portanto, é algum género do nosso, o Smart Islands Hubs. Nós apenas dedicamos a nossa especialização ao turismo sustentável.
So, I will try to summarize, as my other colleagues have already touched upon, what the Innovation Information Hub really is and what we are trying to do. And for anyone that can't see what is on the screen, we will summarize it for you. So, the digital innovation hubs are part of a collaborative networks that include specific digital competences with the objective.
Portanto, temos aqui algumas das áreas de intervenção, a sustentabilidade sempre presente, a competitividade empresarial também, a internacionalização da região, o turismo, entre outras, não é? Não só
intervention areas here in Açores would be tourism, digitalization, internationalization, and sustainability.
Não vou aprofundar muito, porque o Paulo também falou muito bem aqui dessas quatro vertentes do DIH.
So, the four main tasks of this hub would be high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, cloud and data, cybersecurity, and advanced digital skills.
Cibersegurança e competências digitais avançadas. Portanto, estas áreas ou estes pilares deverão ser.
So these areas or pillars are our main focus of our activity in the island.
Que é a entidade que aqui traz, parte de ciência e tecnologia, que já foi aqui referido, é a entidade que coordena o DIH, não é? Com um conjunto de parceiros, Fundo Regional de Ciência e Tecnologia, Câmara de Comércio e Indústria de Portugal delegada como representante.
So right now, Tomás Ferreira is enunciating that this is not only the University of Açores, but it is various institutions that deal with this, that are trying to solve these challenges of making a smart region.
Portanto, já foi aqui falado, eu apenas dividi em quatro áreas em vez de.
So, as been stated before, the four areas, as my other colleagues have said, would be the human resources, education and culture, our infrastructure, equipment and technology, and governance and politics. So, all four areas need to be communicating together in order for this smart hub to actually work and that we can overcome our challenges. I'm not going to speak to every point here, otherwise I will be here all day.
Acho que uma das grandes dificuldades é adaptar às
So, in my eyes, the most difficult point here is adapting to already existing cities, agile and flexible to its scale.
Até porque se nós formos construir uma região inteligente de raiz, os desafios são outros. Portanto, é mais difícil.
So hypothetically, we started by saying that if we were to create a 100% a smart island, it would be a huge task. Right now, we are not able to do that, so we need to focus only in certain areas or where we can be 100% smart. Going back to the security issue, which has already been talked about, is extremely important, which no one wants to have data leaked out of any institution.
Procura energética, porque nós muitas vezes não nos lembramos que quanto mais digitais formos, mais energia vamos consumir.
So the more digital we are, the more energy we will consume. So sustainability is very important. So within the human resources, which has already been talked about, is the lack of experienced professionals, IT professionals to be more precise. New jobs versus conventional jobs.
É complicado, não é? Se todos formos fazer trabalhos que não aqueles mais complexos, lembrei-me agora de falar um bocadinho dos técnicos que fazem a limpeza dos pavimentos da cidade Ponta Delgada, se nós formos por aquelas pessoas todas, se formos substituídas por robôs, quer dizer, vai gerar aqui um constrangimento, nem todos podem ser engenheiros, nem todos podem ser cientistas.
So we have a problem within regional Açores. We can't substitute all human resources for robots.
E aqui é importante falar do trabalho que fiz no âmbito da agenda para a inovação. Fizemos um conjunto de workshops em que vimos numa estratégia de população para o tubo, tentar perceber quais eram os sentidos e notamos que o principal, no caso dos Açores, é mesmo uma questão de cultura das pessoas, de sensibilidade para estas temáticas, de adesão a estas temáticas. Não é fácil.
A culture issue is how people accept this change. People sometimes fear change, they don't accept it well, namely public transportation, public education, public training, socially inclusive, lack of confidence or reluctance shown by citizens, health and education, safety, security of citizens. It's extremely hard for citizens to accept and to create 100% smart platforms for the above mentioned topics.
E essa equidade no acesso à tecnologia por parte de todos, porque, como já foi também dito, o principal são as pessoas. É o que está no centro aqui da nossa atenção. E depois temos a parte do governo e da política.
So regarding the government and its politics, we are limited by funds, political interests, so differences as roadblocks to smart city developments or deployments. Public and private sector organizations need to coordinate and collaborate. Collaboration here is key. There is, let's say, a big void of legislation and policies. Good governance, especially e-governance and citizen participation. So this is our installations you're watching right now on the screen. The Açores Digital Innovation Hub. Thank you very much to Thomas Freire. Our next orator is José Cabello.
Jason, if you are using the translation in Google, probably doesn't work because it's not officially accepted.
So right now José Cabello is speaking in English, so I will only translate or summarize what he says in Portuguese.
No tengo una presentación de nuestro DIF Innovation Hub en las Islas Canarias, pero más compartimos un montón de estrategias y objetivos que tienen los compañeros. O sea, Madeira, la presentación de Tomás en Azores, en Mónaco, es similar a la presentación de DIF Innovation Hubs que estamos haciendo en Canarias. Pero sí me gustaría compartir con ustedes tres retos importantes que estamos teniendo en las Islas Canarias. El primer reto es conseguir que todas las entidades, cabildos públicas y privadas, centros de investigación, universidades, empresas, estén todos alineados en el mismo objetivo. Cuando empezamos a crear el DIF Innovation Hub en las Islas Canarias, el primer importante problema que encontramos es que cada administración pública...
So I'll try here, we're having a bit of an issue since I'm not a Spanish speaker, but I'll try to aid here in the translation. There's a lot of challenges, even stupid challenges within the island. So any initiative is not a direct competition within Canary Islands. It's for the benefit of the Canary Islands, for Europe. It's not a competition for us, which stupidly a lot of us view as a competition. We are competing with others, not each other. We are trying to work and collaborate with other entities in Europe. Secondly, Canary Islands are made up of 7 islands, each one having its own strategies. Each one seems to be regulated by different government policies.
Para estar completamente alineados con la iniciativa en Europa. Esto es otro reto importante porque cada isla está trabajando en su territorio inteligente.
So each island is working on its own intelligent hub. So various challenges ahead because 7 islands, 7 different projects working on these smart islands. So one of the main difficulties is for the Digital Innovation Hub is working with people from all 7 islands. So the most important factor here is to speak to each entity to actually know what they need so that we can provide the technology, appropriate technology. So there is no point of talking about artificial intelligence if, let's say, a bakery doesn't actually know what they need. People need to know what they need so that we can provide them with that exact technology. This is a very big issue. Our principal objective here is to work very closely with various enterprises in order to understand again what they want so that we can provide it to them.
autônomos, empresas com uma, duas pessoas. É importante pensar como nós, através do Digital Innovation Hubs, podemos ajudar, podemos dar de suporte.
Again, it's very important for us to think through this innovation, how we can best suit these enterprises. Hopefully you have understood either him or me. Thank you very much, José Cabello. It's Spanish-Portuguese, a mix of Spanish and Portuguese.
Só pormenor, aqui em Portugal, recto é uma palavra pouco perigosa.
Well, in Portuguese, rector is a very interesting word which refers to part of the anatomy. Thank you to everyone in the round table for their participation and the information which was very enriching in the digital innovation sector.
FIWARE, a Fundação FIWARE, penso que vem dar muito resposta a estes desafios. Realmente,
FIWARE is very important in answering questions about the safety of our data, especially within all the enterprises, as it is extremely important to be able to have the FiWARE for all and different institutions. So it's also very interesting for me, especially to know my colleague Cesar Rosa, which works in the Funchal municipality. It was interesting that I wasn't aware of so many initiatives which the city is actually undergoing. So very happy to know their initiatives. We would like to know how the city sees the future with the FiWARE, especially with the commercial FiWARE which is available. How do you see this future? So Andrea Rosa Collard, from the Regional Director of Information Technology. So what do I think about actually creating firmware in-house or actually buying outside? So the challenge here is creating our own firmware in-house, let's say, is that we are limited within our human resources, not just limited by numbers of people that are working for us, but also the knowledge of the people that are working for us. Because as one of the challenges that were enunciated by all my other colleagues from the roundtable was one issue that dealt with the lack of IT information, the qualified professionals. So if we don't have enough human resources and we don't have the qualified professionals, we won't be able to make or rewrite a firmware that's actually able to deal with all our necessities, obviously buying outside or buying commercial firmware has already been specially developed by specialists. So that's one advantage of buying a commercial firmware. Unfortunately, in-house we don't yet have, but it would be wonderful to have the qualified staff and more staff to actually work on the firmware, because we could create our own firmware personalized to all our needs.
Ao desenvolvermos in-house, temos que ter em conta estas necessidades e a continuidade do que estamos a desenvolver in-house.
If we did have the staff by numbers and by qualification, we would be able to keep updating our firmware without the need to contact outside resources.
Para garantirmos se essas pessoas vão-se embora, nós temos outras que possam dar continuidade.
Right now, we do not yet have that available. Therefore, buying a commercial firmware is more logical for us.
A questão, relativamente a esta abordagem,
So, relatively to this topic, we are not trying to replace new applications, new firmware. One of the goals of the city is to mainly focus on in some areas, especially the application that we saw beforehand, which is for functional occurrences. We have the in-house staff to actually create this platform. So we are applying all our resources in what we can and what has shown to be actually effective within the city. So we have various protocols, startups that actually developed other software. Data has been extracted from that, but unfortunately those startups are no longer available as they have closed.
Temos feito passo a passo, temos feito pouco, pegar nas nossas, como o Jason falou, pegar pouco nas nossas peças de Lego e tentar juntá-las aos poucos. Não podemos juntá-las todas de uma vez.
As Andrea mentioned before, this is a step-by-step process. As Jason mentioned, this is like Lego pieces. We grab each piece that we can focus on and start stacking them, and hopefully we'll be more efficient in the future.
Não concordando com o que foi dito, pronto, é verdade que as soluções, quando são desenvolvidas a nível local, são de facto mais adaptáveis e mais customizáveis e mais próprias para o fim a que se destinam. Claro que depois há que, como está ali no placar do FIWARE, think global, act global, pode ser o contrário.
So, not wanting
globalmente, pensando globalmente. Ou seja, já pensar na solução que é desenvolvida para determinado
accepting my colleague's opinion, but as we see here to our left, think global, act global.
Isso acontece algumas vezes. Posso falar de uma situação que
we are, at my institution at least, we are working always on different projects, especially cyber safety.
Para os Açores e só para o sistema governamental, não é? Para toda a rede grave, que é o governo regional dos Açores. E aí, pronto, claro que estamos a criar barreiras com o exterior, mas há uma solução que assegura uma integridade dos dados, uma segurança dos dados, de uma outra forma que teria que ser colocada nas mãos de terceiros. Tem coisas más, tem coisas boas.
We were contracted to work for a Swedish government, especially in order to develop a FiWARE to protect all information within the government. And this is very, well, to say it's extremely important to keep all government information safe. So it was important for us to develop this system for the government in-house.
Da interoperabilidade de dados nas empresas, especialmente nas medianas e nas grandes empresas. Se assim, todos os anos, muita inversão em tecnologia, em software, software privado, software open source, aberto. Isso é problema. Mas penso que a solução é a standardização. Precisamente FiWARE é um ecossistema.
So the solution for our enterprises is standardization. We need standardized FiWARE so that we can protect all data within governments and institutions, whether they be financial, private, public, etc.
Como el International Data Space Association o el Big Data Value Association o GaiaX.
Other initiatives need to be creative and are extremely important for us to keep our standardization. More options that we have available, we will be able to standardize this process. This is not only important for big enterprises, but also for smaller enterprises. We're not just focusing on big enterprises, which obviously deal with more data, but there are small enterprises that need to have and to make use of this data. So access to this information need to be made easy. Access to this information, this data need to be easy. So standardization is extremely important. So, thank you very much. And 1 hour has already gone by. And I will invite anyone that has a question for our roundtable.
Gostava de ouvindo agora aqui as exposições, fundo de serviço alguma razão, tirando a exceção do nosso amigo de Canários, porque em toda a lógica de ver a transição de uma região, ou de tornar uma região inteligente, vemos cá as infraestruturas, acho que também se agora só com a tecnologia e as pessoas, mas não haverá aqui alguma razão para não ter um foco também no fundo num layer intermédio, mas que é muito importante, que são as organizações e as instituições ou as empresas, porque as empresas têm identidade e agem na sociedade e são influenciadas como tal. E a verdade é que não vemos muito foco nisso, vemos nas pessoas, que é a tecnologia e tudo. Quer dizer, mas ao nível da empresa, ou da organização, ou da instituição, ser também um foco de atuação para a transformação. Questão só que deixa-se alguma razão para não aparecer.
So to summarize the question, it is basically the transaction of this, what is the focus of the transaction into the smart era? Because enterprises and government need to make this transaction, not just people with access to these platforms.
E ao pôr o foco nas pessoas e portanto, no negócio é extremamente importante. E o que é que nós estamos a falar aqui?
Andrea says that the focus for them is the people, once the people are the ones that actually make the transition. It's all good and well to say the enterprise, whether it be public or public or private, the enterprises are run by people. Therefore, our focus are on the people in order to make the transition. When I speak about infrastructure, I'm not just speaking about public infrastructure or within our city. I'm talking about public and private, all around our city, having tools available to everyone that works at the enterprises. The 5G optical was extremely important for us to be made available around the island, so everyone now has access to our 5G network and everyone has access to information in real time. This will help everyone within the public or private sector make any decisions by having access to this data.
Porque a administração pública é dos organismos que tem, que recolhe a maior parte de dados em toda a Madeira. E esses dados podem ser utilizados por privados, obviamente tendo em conta.
So for us, it's extremely important to have a smart government, as most of the information collected within the island is done by the government. The government can also make this information available to the private sector.
Que, portanto, o negócio seja então transformado também com esses dados para, por exemplo, se é restaurante, fazer, portanto, especial jantar a dois com.
Every information collected is important. For instance, if you have a restaurant, we can use information or extract information that has been collected for that restaurant to know what meals they should serve. This is just an example that can be applied to any business.
Complementando só aqui, portanto, tudo o que nós temos feito, quer em termos de segurança, quer em termos de desenvolvimento, também serve às empresas, ou seja, o facto de termos videovigilância na cidade, mais segurança na cidade.
So just to complete on what was said, this city is making available, for instance, the CCTV, which is for everyone's security, and people that at least have a phone has access to this information. We are making strides within various sectors. We have online services. We have private businesses asking us for information. And through this data collection, we are able to give this information to private enterprises. Or even through the online platform, they can just download this information. So these small steps coincide not only with the private sector, but also the public sector.
Para todo esse processo. E eu hoje os DH, também conforme as indicações da União Europeia, incide precisamente nisso, no apoio às empresas e para, através do apoio às empresas, chegar às pessoas. Porque as empresas estão feitas de pessoas, mas não feitas. E é mais fácil, muitas vezes, portanto, vou falar aqui de números importantes, apoiar 100 empresas que empregam 10 pessoas, portanto, e aí já envolvemos 1000 pessoas, do que estar apoiando uma pessoa de cada vez.
So Thomas Petter says it's easier to provide help or aid enterprises because enterprises are made of people. So it's easier to get information, to disseminate this information to a lot more people through the enterprises, in contrast to just providing information to one citizen.
Só para dar essa nota, e portanto lá está, é quatro pilares da inovação. As pessoas, a academia, universidades, empresas e o setor público. Todos estes atores terão que estar envolvidos necessariamente e as empresas privadas, inclusive.
All sectors are involved in this innovation, the public sector, private sector, students, small enterprises, big enterprises. They're all important in order to make this transition.
particularmente quiero felicitar por el trabajo que hacen las cámaras de comercio. Es muy importante.
I want to personally thank the local municipalities because their work is being viewed and it's actually working.
Palabras que la pyme no traduce fácilmente. Y las cámaras de comercio, aquí tenemos Cámara de Comercio de Madeira, Cámara de Comercio de Azores, en Canarias tiene un rol muy importante, mas es importante que ustedes podáis trasladar toda esta problemática a las entidades que estamos trabajando con esta tecnología, que estamos trabajando con estas líneas estratégicas, porque es fundamental trabajar todos juntos en un mismo objetivo, que es la competitividad de las empresas y de la región. Simplemente felicitar por el trabajo que hacéis, que nunca es visible, estáis ahí siempre escondidos, ¿no? Trabajando, pero tenéis una cercanía muy importante con el tejido empresarial autónomo, micropymes.
I'm trying to summarize here my Spanish. José Cabello continues to thank and continues to say that the work sometimes may not be 100% viewable by all citizens, but there is a lot of work being done, not only in Madeira, but in Canaries and Açores, which has been extremely important. Although we have gone over an hour, I would like to again thank everyone here at the round table and everyone present. I am glad that everyone here is taking an interest in this digital future. And hopefully in the future we'll have more resources, human resources qualified in order to make this transaction into a smart island. Hopefully I will be able to see everyone here again for tomorrow's session.
E da logística. Muito obrigado.